Anyway, good morning, TikTok. Welcome to my kitchen here this Saturday morning, the day before Easter, the day before 420, but I'm not getting into that. And the first thing we are doing here this morning is melting some chocolate. And for the record, this is the proper way to melt chocolate. You do this over boiling water. I've got about 8 ounces of chocolate here, chocolate chips. And, well, as you can see, we just simply stir it until it's melted. And once that's taken care of, we will then be ready to begin preparing a batch of delicious, rich chocolate magical brownies. And as for why I'm not using a proper bain-marie to melt this chocolate, well, number one, I don't have one. Number two, as you can see, you don't really need one, although it does make the process a lot more convenient, I guess. I only melt chocolate every so often anyway. I mean, if I were doing it on a regular basis, I would most certainly get a bain-marie. However, look at this. We do have ourselves some fairly decent melted chocolate here. Okay, let's see. Now that we've got this started out. Oh, yes, that's right. We are going to go now with 1 1/4 cups of brown sugar. I'm sorry, white sugar. Yeah, no, the brown sugar comes next. We are going with, there's 1 cup, 1 1/4 cups of white sugar, followed by 1 cup of brown sugar. That's 1/2, and here's another half. There we go, maybe just a tiny bit more. We will now add in our magic, because these are magic brownies. And I'm not going to say anything more about the magic other than this is what they might call magic butter. But that is, of course, all I'm going to say here in public. Suffice to say, yes, this is legal, and now I'm not going to say anything else. Because, again, these are going to be some very special magic brownies to be presented tomorrow on Easter. Because adults get to have a treat on Easter as well as kids. Frankly, this magic makes me gag. I'm really not crazy about the smell of it. Fortunately, that is why we are using all of this sugar. To this, we now mix in 4 eggs. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And here as we start whisking our magical ingredients together. The butter was melted previously and then allowed to cool. Nice thing about these brownies is they have no leavener. There's no baking soda or baking powder to them. It really depends on simply whisking air into these ingredients. And that's the main reason why I'm doing this by hand. There we go. Now we're starting to get the right consistency. And this is really not taking very long at all. And that takes care of the wet ingredients. Now we move on to the dry ingredients, which is 1 cup of flour, just plain old all-purpose flour. 1 cup of cocoa powder. And as you can tell, I am not a professional. So if it looks like I'm stumbling around here in my kitchen, you're right. That's pretty much par for the course for me. This is a 1/3 cup, so there's 1, 2, and 3. And again, the real trick of this particular recipe, again, is we need to get everything mixed together lightly so that it has kind of like a fluffy consistency. And try not to get this powder over everything. I think I do this every time I mix. But as you can see, it is already starting to come together, so this really doesn't take very long. There we go. This is definitely starting to look like brownie batter now. Finally. we mix in the melted chocolate, which has cooled some by now. So sugar, sugar, chocolate, chocolate, flour, eggs, magic butter, and that's pretty much all of our ingredients. Oh, actually, I think I did forget to throw in a little bit of salt, so I'd better do that now. About 3/4 of a cup of salt. I think I always forget the salt. Not 3/4 of a cup of salt. Did I say that? 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt. Yeah, 3/4 of a cup of salt would really make these some interesting brownies, all right. I'll get these mixed in as good as we can. And anyway, the sweet and salty thing has been a thing for the past several years. I did forget one more ingredient. I am doing so awful this morning. Have to put in about maybe 1/4 cup of oil. That was my bad. To give it a better consistency. I'll also make the brownies more gooey. This is 1/3 cup. I don't want 1/3 cup. So, no, it's only a couple of tablespoons of oil anyway, so that's enough. There we are. As you can see, this does change the consistency of the batter. And I think in a good way. Because, yeah, this batter is definitely looking a lot more moist now. This means we're going to have some ooey, gooey, chewy magic brownies. Looks like we got it. Yeah, the oil also helps it to, all of this stuff to be more non-stick. So far, so good. Now, we definitely have brownie batter. Time now to prepare our baking pan. This just happens to be an enameled cast iron baking pan because I have one. And all we need to do is coat this with butter. So we start, as you can see, painting this to give it a decent coating of butter. And anyway, as I mentioned, these are special magic brownies. And I find it interesting, without going into detail, that there are quite a few folks out there who will really go out of their way to acquire some decent magic and then mix it in with dollar store brownie mix. I mean, if you're going to do this, then you should have some high quality brownies, I would think. There we go. There's probably no such thing as too much butter on this, but even so, I think we're doing not too bad. And it is time to add the batter. Yeah, I'm definitely glad I did not forget that oil. It is definitely making this much more non-stick. Yeah, I'm gonna have to find an adult to lick the bowl too. And it's gonna have to be an adult. However, here is our brownie batter, which definitely reminds us of something other than brownie batter, but that's all right. We all know brownies are heaven in a pan and in your mouth. One last thing on top of everything else. Let's top it with a few more chocolate chips. Because why not? Ready to go into the oven. Here is some magic brownie batter. And yes, the only word I'm going to use to describe this is magic. Cooking magic, in fact. That's what I practice in my kitchen. 1, 2, 3. And all we have to do now is let it bake for maybe 30 to 40 minutes. And we will have our magic Easter brownies. So there we go. Haha. Well, that was certainly worth it. Here are our magical brownies to be presented tomorrow on Easter to my family and friends. Because adults need an Easter treat just as much as kids do.